Okay, before I do anything else, I have to pause and mention the screen here because I know some of you are seeing this from other schools and on a Blackboard platform. So the structure of the class looks different, but it's the same content. So as I go through these, just know that for those of you in the live version that where we use Moodle, that is what you're seeing here. For the fully online students, just know you'll get the same content, but it'll look different because it'll be on the Blackboard platform, the online learning system Blackboard. Just had to mention that before we proceed. Okay, this is video lecture 6. Let's get going. I realize I've got to make a canine maneuver here. My dog is in the room. I've got to get her out, but I thought maybe you'd like to meet our pop culture mascot. This is Sabby Davis Jr. Sabby, come here. Say hi to the good folks. She's a 2-year-old yellow lab who I got actually at an Amish farm here in Illinois, but we named her Sabby because my wife's Russian, and the word for dog in Russian is собака. It's a little tidbit. Her name of Sabby Davis Jr. actually comes from a movie I want to mention since we're talking pop culture. If you're at all interested, like Sabby is not. Sabby. There's a movie called Everything is Illuminated with Elijah Wood, the guy from, Frodo. Came out a little while ago. I strongly recommend it if you have any interest in a Jewish man searching for his Ukrainian roots, taking a very comedic journey through the hinterlands of Ukraine, where my wife is actually from. And you could get to learn a lot more about that. I did. It's a great movie. Just thought I'd mention it. One thing I have to mention before we get started is that you'll notice, and I think I did this in the last audio or last video lecture, is that you saw a display that showed this class in one of two forms. And right here, what I'm using is the Moodle version that when I run the live class, we use this Moodle version of the class. But some of you are taking this using Blackboard as your platform, and it looks a little different. The content's essentially the same, so don't be distracted by that if you're taking the online version. At the time of this recording, I hadn't updated the Blackboard version for you guys taking it fully online, but I'll be doing that before you actually take the course. By the time you watch this, it'll be rolled out, but for this audio, you're going to get the Moodle version, and so just to be clear, same content, different format, different view. Don't worry too much about it. Okay, back to the script. Video lecture 6. This last video lecture will focus on 3 specific dimensions of social stratification, that is class, race, and gender/sexual orientation, where we will read some scholarship on these issues, relate to current events in terms of popular culture, and engage in some video clips from some interesting documentary videos that I've chosen that speak to these 3 dimensions. After which, you'll be ready to complete the final assignments in this class, which includes the cumulative final assignment, where we'll tie it all together. Before getting into that material and assignment, before I get into that too much, though, I need to talk about the remaining assignments so that you have a clear picture of what we're trying to do here as far as integration. So let's look at the website and talk about that. Note that this final video lecture will include the final 3 modules, modules 6 through 8, so it's going to apply to all 3 of those. For module 6, media and class, We first have to distinguish between the online and live versions of this class. So if you're taking the live version of this class, we begin by talking about how the final assignment, which is due at the end of the semester, but we don't need to talk about that now. Well, we do need to talk about it now in a little bit, which involves a short 15-minute in-class presentation where you will organize and lead a class presentation and live discussion organized around the session leader worksheet, which is here on this display. But again, if you're taking the fully online version, it's going to be a final project worksheet, right? So if you're in the live version of this class, we're going to discuss the instructions and parameters of this assignment in class, so you can disregard these next few sentences as I describe what's up for those of you taking the online version. Okay. For the rest of you in the online version of this class, you will be preparing a PowerPoint or Prezi or some other presentation app using the final project worksheet as your guide, where you'll be demonstrating your integrative knowledge of some core concepts and ideas from the class by discussing a particular pop culture phenomenon in relation to those concepts and ideas. What you'll want to do is download and read the instructions for the final project worksheet and email me if you need clarification on those requirements. Okay. For everyone taking this course, online or live, I want to now talk about the other remaining assignments going through modules 6 through 8, one at a time. These final modules are all related in that we are dealing with the general issue of social stratification as represented in the popular culture, specifically the dimensions of class, race, and gender/sexual orientation. So for these final modules, you only need to read chapter 6 from our textbook in the 6th edition on social stratification. Note that the final exam, quiz 3, which is non-cumulative, will contain fewer textbook questions than the last exam, since most of the material from these modules will be from the additional required online readings and not the textbook itself. So when you read the chapter, take note of the major ideas, especially those things that are also discussed in the related online readings, and be prepared to answer quiz questions from both sources, with about half of the questions coming from the textbook on this last quiz. I keep calling it an exam, but it's a quiz. For Module 6, Class and Media, beyond the textbook, you'll be watching a video on how social class is depicted in the media, particularly on TV, as a set of narratives that portray working class Americans as a particular breed of people, often presented as lazy doofuses or as living happy, active lives in a fictional world where the working poor appear satisfied and fulfilled with their status in life. Think about the shows you watch. I mean, just think about the TV sitcoms you've grown up with, where the working poor are shown in comedy relief, joking and laughing for the camera, struggling sometimes, but always with a smile on their face. How accurate is that portrayal? Why would corporate media want to project such an image? We've been talking about that all semester in various ways. The activity journal this week asks you to actually go to a shopping center or mall. And I just want to interject here that it's a cultural phenomena you've probably already observed, the decline of the American mall. I think I read somewhere where a new mall hasn't been built in this country since 1980, and the mall next to you is probably in decline as well. Most of them are. There's a couple interesting documentaries out there that I don't have time to share with you now, but that talk about this phenomena of the declining mall experience in America and the move or the replacement of those malls using that same infrastructure to have community centers and stuff, repurposing the mall that we used to love, and I did back in the 80s, which are now on decline. So we need to a new imagination to use that space, and things are happening, like for example with the Hispanic and Latino communities that are having organized events at these now empty spaces, since a lot of the um, mall outlets have closed down or slowed down. I think it's an interesting facet of our culture that we really aren't going to explore too much in this class. Just thought I'd mention it. So when you do this activity journal that asks you to go to the shopping center, just keep this in mind. Keep a couple things in mind, actually, and refer to the instructions on the assignment itself, and don't try to get by just with my verbiage here. First, understand that you should not attempt to complete this assignment by simply reflecting on your last shopping trip or trip to the mall. To answer the questions I posed fully, you'll need to go into this as a sociologist would by taking a pen and notepad with you. Don't go shopping. Find a good spot to unobtrusively observe shoppers and sit quietly and be prepared to do that kind of fieldwork, observational kind of activity when you do this. Be more of a social scientist than and don't plan on doing any shopping when you do this. Have the actual assignment in hand so you can refer to the questions in order to observe when I'm asking you to observe. It's pretty easy to tell who hasn't actually done real field work here and someone who's just making it up to get through the assignment. So just a heads up that you probably won't get full credit without incorporating some fairly thorough field notes in this assignment to sort of prove to me that you actually did it. So try and write it up with that in mind. Okay, for Module 7, the one called Media and Race, we want to be thinking about how racial minorities are portrayed in the media. After reviewing Chapter 6 again, you'll be engaging a PowerPoint reading on race from a cultural studies perspective, and another one that talks more specifically about how minorities are presented as dangerous criminals, which kind of goes along with the Culture of Fear video we watched previously, where the author compares that image with statistical realities on crime in America and the repercussions for our criminal justice system in terms of racial disparity in sentencing and imprisonment, for example. And there is a video clip from Democracy Now!, an interview by Amy Goodman with authors of a recent book on how the news media has changed over time in terms of being more or less decentralized and its effect on American perceptions of racial minorities in the media. There's a couple questions you may see on your final quiz related to this book, so don't forget to watch that interview. It comes in a couple parts. It's called News for All the People, and you'll need to digest that. The assignment for this module asks you to watch and review a crime drama on TV, but like with the mall observations, you'll need to do more than just watch or recollect a recent show you saw on TV. To fully answer the questions I posed, you'll need to take notes while watching your favorite crime drama, having the assignment questions in front of you, and you'll need to stop or pause the show a few times while you watch, and you'll need to reflect on the readings as you watch. So be prepared by knowing what you're looking for before you begin. Maybe have the room clear of distractions, like get your kids out of the room. Don't be, just sitting there watching popcorn, eating popcorn and lounging. Really take it more seriously than that. Finally, with Module 8, we'll be looking at gender and sexual orientation as it is portrayed in the media. Let me first apologize for conflating gender issues with issues involving sexual orientation. I realize that these are distinct phenomena, but for our purposes, and because we're at the end of the semester, we will be talking about them sort of together. But I just wanted to point out that we could certainly delve into these subjects independently, so just keep that in mind as we proceed. First, for Module 8, check out the PowerPoint articles on, it's a PowerPoint as an article, like before. My phone's ringing again. Hold on. swear, telemarketers know when I'm recording these live video lectures because they consistently call me right in the middle of them. I don't know what's up with that. Surveillance. Anyway, so I was talking about the articles that, in this case, a couple of them come in a PowerPoint format, but I'm just calling it a PowerPoint/article that look at these gender issues from a cultural studies perspective initially, just to kind of frame the subject a little bit for you. Then I want you to read the related articles to learn what serious scholars on these subjects have to say and what they found in terms of the media's presentation of gender and sexual orientation and the impressions left, especially for men. There's an article that deals with the fantasy football leagues for you guys, or women. You'll get a kick out of that interplay with this serious scholarship. There's an article called "Breasts Are for Men," which it doesn't really give the thesis of the article its due, but that's there for you as well. And then watch the video, Not Just a Game, Sports and Culture. When you watch this, look for some surprising findings about just how more or less the media has portrayed women's participation in sports in various arenas. These findings are not exactly what you would expect, so look for that. So after you've completed the activity journal and discussion forum assignments for modules 6 through 8, the only other thing I need to mention, other than to take the third and final online quiz, is that you are also invited to complete one additional activity journal called Activity Journal 4 for 25 extra credit points, located in the Module 8 section of the assignments. This is another observational activity like the Let's Go Shopping one, where you'll observe a sporting event and then ruminate on that observation in terms of the articles assigned for that module. It's called Play Ball. So that's extra credit. It's not required, but if you want those extra points, they're there for you, and just get that in before the semester ends, preferably as soon as possible. Okay? So that's about it. The final 3 modules anxiously await your engagement. I hope those observational activities are interesting for you and that they awaken you to some of the ways the ideas we explored in this class are a part of your daily life, immersed in the pop culture of our times, so to speak. Are you woke? And be sure to email me with any questions or concerns about these final assignments. I recently refreshed and updated this class, its assignments and learning material, so I'd be interested to know what you thought of the class and its content and the way I delivered it. By way of the student evaluation form, or if you want to email me that feedback, either way is cool. One thing I'm particularly interested in knowing is if the video lectures were useful at all. This is a kind of a new, the most recent addition to this class, especially for those of you in the fully online version of the class. All my courses have been developed and updated over the years using primarily former student feedback. So your feedback is very important to me in this endeavor. So anything you provide, I will read and employ in future iterations of this class, right? That's it. See you around.